Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming, and thank you to the Forbes Library for having me and Tom, and thank you, Tom, for reading with me. Just met him, and a really likable guy. I'm going to be reading from my forthcoming poetry chapbook, Sweet Blisters. I'm going to read 9 poems, and then I'm going to read a couple other poems that weren't in the chapbook. This first poem is a response poem, and a lot of how I get my ideas for poems are I read other poets, and then a poem speaks to me, and I'll write a response to it. And this poem was published in Sinister Wisdom 117, and it's written in 8 couplets. Aging female poet attends writing retreat. After Margaret Atwood's aging female poet sits on the balcony. The late autumn trees lose their last leaves fast to the strong gusts of wind this first writing day. They fly like little yellow birds from the branches off the mountain to another land for forgotten things. The aging female poet gazes out the window at the landscape and writes her last poems, perhaps, as light blue hills hold the distance down and the sun sets. While her blood flows quick, she will sing of trees and birds, and as she ages, what will she dream of? When her sight fades with the afternoon light, will she write from memory or fear? Crisp apples will trigger her best poems, and she will hear what she can of the gales and the spirits of the night. Her childhood haunts will flicker past, and the deep scent of pine trees will linger. This next poem was inspired by the view from my backyard out of my kitchen window. It's often a view that inspires poems for me. This poem is called Bird Watching. His bright blue and white visage stark against the green foliage with that punk blue hairstyle, a big white belly, black streaks on his face, geometric markings on his wings and tail. He is conceited and proud. The bird feeder is meant only for him, and he cocks his head jauntily to one side as he dominates the bird bath. He is one of the few birds I can identify, and I love his joie de vivre. This next poem has had a couple of revisions, including the title. I really enjoyed writing it. It's unusual style for me, and it's a bit humorous, and it's a short one. The origin of war. Said the cat, "You itch me with your bites in my flesh. Yours is a system of jump and crawl. There is you, the catapult, and there is you, the stone. You love nestling in my fur, your deep longing like the calling of that first scent, bee to flower." Said the flea, "I have seen you, furry snob, in that business in your litter box. It's known, little know-it-all, you run the house from the couch. You could be a princess. You scratch at me like a desperado or an addict. You are no flower, and I am no bee." This next poem was about a job I had when I was 14. And I wrote the first draft in college. And then I was looking through my mass of papers, and I found it, and I thought it was worth revising and keeping. Working in the Connecticut tobacco fields. Early morning, the clay soil is damp from the morning dew. The wide tobacco leaves flap against my legs as I walk down the row, carrying my string, tying the plants to the wire above them. My fingers are stiff, fumbling with loose string, moving of its own accord. The nicotine on the sticky leaves pulls the hairs on my hand, turning them black. Bent bodies across the field work with flowing motion up and down. Overhead, netting undulates in the morning breeze. The string is wet, slices my hand, opening cuts that have scabbed and bled over and over. Tobacco is my summer job, and I dream all day of playing tennis at Wimbledon. This next poem is a list poem, and it was inspired by Say Shonigan and the Pillow Book. She is an 11th century Japanese noblewoman, and the Pillow Book has her observations and musings of the imperial court at the time. It includes a lot of humorous list poems, and that is what inspired this poem. Things that raise my blood pressure. Salty food, pedestrians who spit on my sidewalk, birds who poop on my car, the snowplow that adds hard-packed snow to the end of my driveway after I've shoveled it clear, neighbors who toss cigarette butts on my lawn, dust that collects on my floor, unexplained diarrhea, people who talk during a presentation, people who don't wipe down the machine after exercising, smokers in my airspace, pens that don't write, my car when it doesn't start, unsigned notes, medicine that makes my mouth dry, unexplained rashes, dirty fingernails on acquaintances, hairdressers who clip my ear with their scissors, toenail fungus, people who lose their glasses and other possessions constantly, people who lie, arguments over nothing, people with very thin arms, loud blasting music on a beautiful spring day, people who don't flush after using a public toilet, shopping carts left next to my car, relatives who never forget something regrettable I did, polka dot pants, bright orange lipstick. You should read the Pillow Book, it's very funny. This next poem is a haiban, it's a Japanese form, and it has a prose poem and then a haiku. It can have more than that, but this one just has a prose poem and a haiku. March Sunrise at Patchwork Farm Retreat, 2018. Black branches are lit in an orange-red stripe across the horizon. The dark blue clouds lift to reveal more pink and yellow in the widening ribbon. Sky lightens to a muted blue. White patches appear, openings for the sun to emerge. Orange sun breaks too strong for my eyes. The birds are calling out. The light edges into my room, urging me to start a poem. Here you are, day says, awake at dawn, alive. Write your joy. Only half a poem comes as my muse settles among the black limbs and orange sky. I've made a start and close my eyes for repose. Birds sing poems from the orange-black horizon only I can hear. I'm just going to take a little sip of water. This next poem is another response poem. It's after a poem I read that had a repetition at the beginning of each line. And this is in couplets except for the last line. It's called How It Is, after Arthur Zay. How good breakfast tastes when you wake up famished. How the blood rushes through your veins after a 45-minute bike ride. How you want to melt into the floor when you make a social blunder. How satisfying it feels to hug a large friend. How scared you are when walking in the dark in a strange city. How much you miss your dead mother. How easy it is to ignore a homeless panhandler. How guilty you feel when canceling plans with a friend. How much your obesity bothers you. How you chew the same piece of gum for hours. How wonderful chocolate feels in your mouth. How much you come alive in the sunshine. How adult you felt after making your first pot of tea. How welcoming lotion feels on your dry feet. How invincible you are after drinking whiskey. How invisible you come to be as you age. How much fun it is to play with a 4-year-old. How the bartender ignores you after you've drank too much. Isn't it great to be alive? This next poem came from a prompt that asked me to write in a pronoun other than I. A lot of my poems have I as the narrator. And the last poem that I just read had you, and this one has he. And it's called He, and it's about an old relationship. His penis has one long hair extending from it. He is very hairy everywhere like a bear, and he sheds on my bed. He is more experienced than me and is gentle. He says, I don't mind that you are with women too. He wants to marry and have no children. He is passive-aggressive and has mommy issues. We never make it past the first year. This last poem from the chapbook started out, has had many revisions. It started out as a poem about my maternal grandmother. And then I decided to write a poem comparing and contrasting my two grandmothers, because they were very lovable but very different. And then I ended up writing about the whole set of grandparents. So I have two columns, one for grandmothers and one for grandfathers. You can't see it, but when I read it, maybe you can hear it. It's called Poem for My Grandparents. Grandmothers are the tenderest flowers in the garden, but they lose their petals fast, and they are gone with the spring breezes, too late to realize how much their love lifts. My maternal grandmother was hardy lavender, fragrant and perky. She lived far away in California. Her visits were oases in a long drought of neglect and inattention. I wanted to live with her. My paternal grandmother was thistle, prickly, beautiful, and strong. She cooked delicious Saturday dinners and believed putting diapers on infants caused them to poop in their pants. She was born in Canada. Both grandmothers wanted me to get married and settle down. My soul was too wild for that life, and I knew I would mimic my parents' marriage and live unhappily. Grandfathers are rugged burlap bags and teachers of skullduggery. They fall asleep in stuffed chairs, watch sports and ignore everyone, pass on their sins to the fifth generation, yet grandmothers outlive them. My maternal grandfather died at 32 after fathering 7 children, my aunts and uncles and mother. He was a jaunty stockbroker dressed in suits in all the photos of him. I wish I had met him. My paternal grandfather smoked and gambled, liked to sit outside in his undershirt, taught us to play cards and laugh at troubles, couldn't tell my sister from me, ate the turkey drumstick on Thanksgiving, and died in his 70s from diabetes. I became a drunk like one grandfather and a diabetic like the other. I have their natures for trouble and may live longer than both. They died too young. I wish I could go back. That's the end of the selection from my chapbook. I just want to say that I don't have any to sell. It's in pre-order right now, and so I have flyers and an order form if you want to pay by check if you're interested. This next poem, as she said, Robin read in my bio, it won 3rd place in the 2019 Palm Beach Poetry Festival Tech Effect Ekphrastic Poetry Contest. Basically, the festival put on their website a bunch of different pictures of art, and you could write a response. Pick one of them and write a response. So the picture I liked looked to me like a green bridesmaid's dress. And so I wrote this villanelle, which is basically specific rhyme scheme and repeating refrain. It's called Last Minute Temptation. No bride's gown, it's on the maid of honor. His sweetheart advanced down the row, but the strapless dress made a better offer. Up the aisle came a green Madonna. His eyes strayed, but he did not show. He saw not the bride's gown, but the maid of honor. Her dress glowed as she came nearer. Who would look at his bride's trousseau when the strapless dress was a better offer? What was wiser, he did ponder, prim and proper or a quick rendezvous? Leave the bride's gown for the maid of honor? His fantasy was soon a goner. Where would they go if the strapless dress made a better offer? A lasting union he could not squander. His place as her beau he really did know. His love wore the bride's gown, not the maid of honor. He knew the strapless dress wasn't a better offer. One more sip before I read the last poem. It's very dry in here. This poem is another response poem. It's written in response to Philip Levine's poem, They Feed, They Lion. And it was published in the Hiram Poetry Review in spring of 2011. Let's see if I can read this. They feed, they death. For Philip Levine's They Feed, They Lion. Out of fast nation, out of fast mouth, fast food, out of bearing arms, selling arms, and trading guns, out of the selling short, buying low, selling out of layoffs, Enron, CEO salaries, they weakness grow. out of rockets' red glare, of bombs blasting, out of acid rain, out of SUVs, red state to blue state, out of worried aunties, mothers protesting their sons' stumps, out of leg stumps, out of politicians' plans and voters' apathy, they weakness grow. Earth is melting, glaciers covering seashores. Earth is changing her atmosphere, calling, look out, look out. From dying polar bears, from the ferocity of bear driven to skeleton, from the furred ear and the full belly come the repose of the isolated cub. From the death, they weakness grow. From the bright dyes of the factories come the bright glow of cancer. From the smoke fumes of the stacks, the spread of disease. From cough up, come lie down. Come they death from greedy stockholders, the strong arm that pulls the bell, they weakness grow. From my stripes and all my stars, from no western sins forgiven, they feed. From my SUV passing another SUV in the night, they death. From my embassies inherit, from the Vietnam Memorial Wall, they death. From they bomb and they bloody remains, and all left burning on the oil-stained earth, they feed, they death, and it comes. Thank you. And I'd like to welcome Tom to the microphone. I'm excited to hear his stuff.
Hello. Complimentary mints. It's very classy. I like it. How's everybody doing? I'm going to read a short story and then two very short little things. First short story is from a book I put out a few years ago. It is speculative sci-fi, and all the stories are either covertly or overtly set in the valley. The one I'm reading, you are going to quickly figure out is set in Northampton, and you will also quickly figure out that I wrote it quite a while ago because a lot of the references are dated. But this will be about 12 or 15 minutes, and we'll see what I have time for at the end. But this, I'll have a sip of water too. This is a story called Gigantic. There's a big dog downtown, she said. Uh-huh. I was having trouble figuring out what made this observation phone-worthy. We rarely called each other. Texting usually covered most of it. I'd pulled over to the side of the road to take her call and was feeling a little impatient. No, a big dog, Beth said. Okay. It's taking up all of Main Street and the sidewalks, too. I laughed, not getting the joke, but her tone was serious. It just appeared. People are trapped under it. It's on Facebook, and I could hear her tapping at her laptop's keyboard. Jesus, Ian, the photos. I'd just crossed the bridge from Hadley to Northampton. I decided to drive downtown. Yellow do not cross tape fluttered across the 4-lane width of Main Street from the cell phone store on the east side, looped around a cruiser's side view mirror to the candy store on the west side. The cops stood gaping, ostensibly there for crowd control, but the crowd was apprehensive. The road leading into downtown were choked with vehicles and people. I abandoned my car by the railroad bridge and pushed my way forward, trying to comprehend the unreality obstructing our little shopping district. The dog, the big dog. It looked like a basset hound, but the distorted scale twisted it into something grotesque, almost unrecognizable if you were too close. The creature, later determined to be female, pushed against crumbling buildings on both sides of the street. She lay there, her house-sized head flopped across the northbound lane, eyes closed, apparently fast asleep. Under a flap of lip there was a bulge, which would later be identified as a flattened Chevy Cobalt. In the following days, 18 people would be declared missing and presumed dead. 2 would later be revealed to be insurance scams, 1 an attempt to escape child support. Witnesses claimed the animal just appeared. First she wasn't there, then she was. And then there was screaming and muffled car alarms and the grinding sounds of buildings twisting and buckling. She didn't fall from the sky. She didn't lumber out of the mountains and lie down for a quick nap. She didn't rise up from the ground. She didn't slowly materialize like on Star Trek, nor did she suddenly grow from a normal-sized dog to a Hindenburg-sized one. The dog just suddenly was. You'd expect black helicopters, hazmat suits, and quarantine plastic bubbles. Swift, bloodless government response. Movies and books have led us to believe that this would be the case. And why not? We all waited for it. 24, 72 hours of anticipation. Don't get me wrong, there were helicopters, plenty of helicopters, mostly media. And sure, there were a fair number of conspicuously inconspicuous sedans without estate plates parked on side streets those first few days. Men appeared in town wearing sunglasses and suits and earpieces. They drank our coffee and crossed our crosswalks. They assessed, reported, and left. It was 3 days before the White House issued a short statement classifying the basset hound as a non-terrorist threat. Federal authorities didn't want to touch the problem, neither did the state. The dog was deemed a municipal problem. No National Guard, no Red Cross, no disaster relief. The city council pleaded their case to officials as if the basset hound was a tornado. The officials insisted it was more like a beached whale. Ted's boot shop, a bank, and birdhouse music were destroyed. Across the street, a hair salon, a clothing store, and another bank were badly damaged. Thorns, an indoor market, had to seal off its main street entrance, which was now completely blocked by a wall of hair and fat. Eventually, 3 buildings would be razed after being found structurally unsafe, displacing 31 upper-floor residents and 11 businesses. Traffic was diverted a block over. The dog required 24-hour protection. People were approaching her, touching her, climbing on her, pulling her 2-foot-long hairs out and selling them on eBay. The Northampton Police Department put officers on overtime until the budget was stretched too far. Before long, the city council couldn't allocate any more money for the detail. They'd already dipped into the snow emergency fund. The city was in crisis. A nonprofit organization was formed. The board of directors raised funds through concerts, house parties, a spring fun run. Over time, they embraced merchandise, seeking to balance respect for the sleeping creature with the reality of the situation. There were T-shirts, stickers, movie licensing. The income allowed the foundation to construct a viewing platform along the head and belly of the beast. A ramp was constructed over the dog's hindquarters, allowing foot traffic to flow relatively unimpeded. The dog hair continued to be sold off through officially sanctioned auctions, humanely harvested, naturally shed hairs, of course. Have a little sip of water. Her shallow breathing was a concern at first. The 5 colleges assembled a team of scientists and researchers to study the basset. Breathing, heartbeat, hair growth. The data pointed to some sort of fracture in time. The dog appeared to exist on its own plane of existence, swaddled in a temporal bubble of unknown origin. The team published a formula that tied the animal's unreal scale to the way she experienced time. That fall, while the citizens of Northampton regrouped, coped, and adjusted their lives, the scientists estimated that the dog slept for about an hour in giant dog time. She snoozed undisturbed through winter and into summer, except for one bad dream that lasted most of July. She glacially twitched her back leg, demolishing the Haymarket Cafe as she chased what was assumed to be a giant dream squirrel. The town was divided into factions, wake her up versus let her sleep. The city's official position was let her sleep. The topic crept into every city council meeting, local forum, and letter to the editor. There was always talk of trying to move her, though no one quite knew how. Even if they did, there was no other town interested in taking her. A multimillionaire from Nevada did express interest in airlifting the creature to the desert to put her on display in one of his casinos. The foundation said no. That gave Northamptonites something else to argue about. Time passed, and the sleeping behemoth became a part of everyday life. The town adapted and learned to function around her and in spite of her. Visitors couldn't help but express disbelief when they'd see townies strolling past the beast with their morning coffees or staring at their phones, not even glancing up. The dog was given 1,000 nicknames, some cute, some clever, some disparaging. In a somehow deeply New England way, the one that stuck was the dog. As the one-year anniversary approached, the foundation decided to celebrate. Plans were laid for the Dog Festival, a parade, dog show, food carts, music, activities for children, speeches, a memorial for the victims. The community pulled together to celebrate and mourn. People and pets came from all over the country, and the media returned in full force. It was a beautiful Massachusetts afternoon. Hundreds of basset hounds sniffed hundreds of other basset hounds' butts. Kids wore officially licensed floppy ear hats. As the mayor approached a podium placed on the viewing platform, there was a rumble. By the time the 4-day fart tapered off to safe levels, 7 people and 13 dogs had died, and an entire neighborhood had been evacuated. The asphalt beneath the dog's rear end had melted, and City Hall was deemed uninhabitable. The historic building was razed, and the debris was burned and buried in an old rock quarry up on the mountain. The federal government maintained that this was not a terrorist attack either. I was awake at 5 a.m. on a Sunday morning, restless and roaming downtown, killing time until the coffee shops opened. I ended up in front of the dog because there was really no way to meander without eventually ending up there. The on-duty security guard, subcontracted by the foundation, snoozed in his Hyundai. It was unusually warm for February, and the piles of snow turned to a thick fog as I climbed the ramp to the viewing platform. The beast loomed in the whiteness. I sat on a bench for a while, picking at the already peeling paint and staring at her wrinkly face. Folds of brow and ear and jowl drooped menacingly overhead. Over the course of the last year, the dog had come to fill many roles for the town, part confessional, part wishing well, part memorial. Visitors often spoke to her, bowed their heads in silent meditation, or left flowers, little notes, candles. It had never occurred to me to talk to her before, but that sleepless Sunday morning seemed to be the morning to start. I'd had a rough year. I told the dog about my heartache and my work ache and my acute dissatisfaction with most everything in my life. I talked about Beth moving out. I talked about my grandfather, 6 years dead, and my perpetually broken car. I promised the dog I would exercise more and eat less meat. I vowed to make more art and curb my Netflix binging. I told her I'd always wanted to see what Austin was like, South by Southwest and brisket. I would make a meat exception for Texas brisket. I told her that I was sad and lonesome. I told the dog that I desperately needed coffee and sleep. I don't remember how long we talked. When the police interviewed me that night, I guessed around 20 minutes, but I don't really know how long it was. I just remember the fog pigpiling on us and the relentless silence of a sleeping town. I leaned over the railing and ran my palm across her mist-covered brow. It felt and smelled like a damp mop. The whole morning did. The dog made Northampton too small. I had lived here long enough to watch the college girls grow up and have children. I'd watched as sushi bars and cafes nudged out repair shops and thrift stores. The street punks and anarchists of a decade ago had graduated into full-fledged panhandlers and addicts. I was surrounded by stores full of bullshit for out-of-towners and condos locals couldn't afford. I had no friends and 200 nodding acquaintances. There wasn't any air left in this town. I wiped my hands on my jeans and closed my eyes and asked the dog a question hundreds of people had asked her over the past 18 months. Joking, teasing tourists, speaking in stupid baby talk voices, trying to wake the beast, trying to make their companions laugh. "Would you like to go for a walk?" I whispered. Just my luck. Just my goddamn luck. I stood transfixed for the next half hour as she opened her terrible, boogery eye. Thanks. RIP to like half those businesses. I'm going to read two things, speaking of closed businesses. This is a collection of essays I wrote about 10 years ago. And it's just sort of silly writing, sitting at different cafes and diners and stuff in the valley. And I counted them up when I was getting ready to do this reading. I don't remember how many are in here. 26 of these businesses have closed in the last 10 years. So that tells you something about how hard it is to sell coffee. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to read two real short things out of this. The first one is from The Whole Donut in Holyoke. Maybe I'll have a little more water, a little time killer. Whole Donut, Holyoke. A handwritten sign on the door says cash only. Taped to the counter, another sign says cash only. And on the cash register, there's a helpful and informative sign announcing cash only. A group of loud young people I immediately dislike barge through the door, all dressed in green. High school, college, I can't even tell anymore. I could give a shit. The boys speak with exaggerated New England accents, really hamming it the fuck up, in my Eastern Mass opinion. Can we use your bathroom? Do you gotta buy a donut? One of the guys waits with a girl by the counter while their friends pee and poop without buying donuts. We met last night, the girl says to him. Do you remember my name? He does not. How do you like them apples? I order a small black coffee and a jelly stick. Well, the little sign in the glass case says they're called jelly sticks with an X, but I'm not sure if that's singular or plural. There's no music playing, so aside from the refrigerator case, all I can hear is my notebook grinding sugar granules into the tabletop. Hi, Colleen, a man coos at the counter woman as he pushes through the door. In one breath, he says, You wallpapered. I got laid off, fucking assholes. Colleen says nothing. Outside, cops mill around the intersection, and I notice more people wearing green clothes. Irish pride shit. I realize I've stumbled into a road race, the Holyoke St. Patrick's 10K. Engine 5 pulls into the Whole Donut lot as crowds form along the street to watch other people run, which is a thing to do, I guess. The one goddamn day I drive into goddamn Holyoke for a goddamn donut and coffee, and I've put myself on a goddamn race course. Ugh. My car's going to get blocked in this parking lot, and I'll be trapped in a shamrock-infested hellscape for hours. Fuck this. I scrawl a number on my shirt with the remains of my jelly sticks and sprint out the door. The crowd cheers me as I pass. Cash only, they chant. Cash only. I run, arms spread, flipping off both sides of the street. It only causes them to cheer more. I run and I run to a place where the weekend leprechauns can't catch me, to a place where I can be free. Thank you. Last one says this piece of tape. This is from another closed business. Well, hold on, it's still open, I think. Yellow Sofa in Northampton, long gone. This is called 37 Minutes. 3:55. A loud, annoying man fills out a job application. I really love the vibe here. He orders a nice coffee. This is so good. I've never heard a person broadcast such obnoxious, room-filling, straw-sucking sounds. I think he finished the drink, and now he's just trying to terrorize the ice. I hope he gets the job. I'd love to see him again. 4:01. I'm going to assume this loud, annoying man is under the influence of a narcotic, which makes him twitchy and unbearable. He sucks on his goddamn straw the whole walk to the trash can. He orders another drink. 4:06. The loud, annoying man won't stop talking to the girl trapped at the cash register. Everyone in the room learns he's gay, where he's lived, his current job, his past jobs, where he went to school, and where his mom lives. He loves Go-Berry, and he wants to go to Divas. He wants to know who to talk to about the job. He wants to know more about the open mic night. Everyone here now knows this man's phone number and that it takes him a really, really long time to fill out a one-page job application. He's curious who the baker is. Do they serve beer here? His phone rings. His ringtone is a voice saying his name. His crotch calls out his name. 4:12. The loud, annoying man goes to the bathroom. The room falls into a delicate and precious silence. We all take deep breaths and feel a sense of peace. 4:15. Jesus fucking Christ, the loud, annoying man is singing now. His boyfriend is here too, by the way. They're both applying for the same job. I haven't mentioned him until now because he's so quiet. They must have amazing arguments. 4:21. The loud, annoying man and his boyfriend managed to drop the cream dispenser twice, once each, and knock over a chair. They're going to be at Divas tonight if anyone wants to meet up. He's not sure how much the cover is, but he isn't worried. 4:32. The loud, annoying man examines a jar of tea leaves. They all smell so good, he says reverently. The world is just such an amazing place. His boyfriend warns him to be careful. I'm not going to drop them. I just want to smell them. He turns to another customer. Do you come here a lot? They stride out. I think it was performance art, pretty well choreographed. The world is just such an amazing place. Thank you. Did you enjoy your reading?
I did. I enjoyed yours better. Very funny. In fact, I want to ask, where do you get your ideas for your writing? It's just so funny.
I'll lean back a little bit. I get my ideas, the ones I enjoy the most, is connecting very disparate ideas, little concepts, and gluing them together and seeing how weird they can be. That story about the big dog, for example, I grew up with a basset hound, and I love those dogs so much, so they're just generally on my mind, just a good fat hound dog, you know. And I lived in Northampton for decades, so I sort of, very familiar with downtown. But neither of those things equal a story. They're just two things floating in my head. And this will be funny because it matches the tone perfectly of the story. I was thinking about 9/11 one day, and the beginning of that story is how I found out about 9/11. Is I was getting into my car to go to work, and my girlfriend called me, and she's like, "A plane hit the World Trade Center." And there used to be stories of Cessnas or whatever running into buildings every once in a while. It wasn't newsworthy in a big way that someone would call me and tell me about it. So I was just so confused. Because it was a giant thing happening, but I didn't understand the scope of it yet. And so somehow, basset hound, Northampton, finding out about 9/11, just one day they, triangulated in my brain, and and out comes a silly story.
That's great.
How about you? Where do your ideas come from?
Well, I kind of explained a little bit when I was introducing the poems. A lot of my ideas come from reading other poets, and their stuff speaks to me. Either the form of the poem, the repetition, the subject, and that's how I get my ideas. The other way I get my ideas are from prompts, like the one about using a different pronoun. And a third way is doing my dishes, looking out my backyard window at it's a city that I live in. I live in Springfield, but I've got rabbits in my yard and squirrels. I used to have chipmunks, but they got eaten by the feral cats. So I've got birds galore, so that's where I get my ideas.
I liked a lot of your bird imagery. I like birds too.
Yeah.
How often do you write?
You know, I browbeat myself for not writing every day, but I have 3 monthly poetry workshop groups that I have to have poems for. So it makes me write, makes me get ready for those. And so like today I prepared 2 poems for Monday. We have a group Monday. And I've written them before, but I was revising them because they can't be just slapped together for the workshop. They have to be, written, set aside for a while, let them compost, and then revise them. But
let them compost.
Yeah,
I like
compost,
that.
Yeah. There's usually I write 2 or 3 times a week. That's what I do. How about you?
Yeah, I've been writing constantly this year. I've been a lot more sporadic in the past, but this year has been a real just like notebook sessions, throwing down ideas, sending myself messages from my phone when I'm on walks, doing little voice to text things, and then dumping all that into Google Docs, and really.
It's like a digital notebook.
Yeah, it really is, and it's. I really don't love writing directly into a Word program, so I really do like notebooks. I just crank through notebooks. I buy the cheapest notebooks I can find and just destroy them and throw them away after. I'm not a big journal keeper or anything. It's very disposable product to me. But anyway, that's that.
How did you learn your craft of prose and short stories and essays?
I started drawing comics for a long time, comic strips. So I was very set up, punchline kind of stuff for years and years, and kind of outgrew the format to the point where I had to I kind of had no choice but to move into prose, because it wasn't a storytelling medium. It was just a quick jab kind of, and then short stories have led to a couple bigger projects. I honestly have a lot of trouble with big projects, but they're big enough ideas that they kind of need to be the size they need to be. So suddenly I'm writing longer projects.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
How about you?
I take a lot of workshops. They're usually Zoom ones, but I used to go to the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown every summer when I was working. I would take my vacation in Provincetown, and I would take a week's workshop, and then I would have a week where I would just be vacationing. I just took a week Zoom in last January and February with a woman who she brings other poets, really the heavy hitters, and they teach, and you get a lot of attention and you get time with each poet. And so I got to take a course with Marie Howe, who just won the Pulitzer Prize in poetry, and that was before she got the Pulitzer Prize, and she was really a good teacher. Both of them were. But I do. I spend my money, instead of on vacations, and I'm retired, but I'm on a fixed income, I spend my money on workshops on Zoom. I just took one on poetry and punctuation, and that was really good.
Were there any twists about like semicolons? Anything you want to share with us?
You know what? There wasn't a lot about semicolons. There was a lot about Robert Frost and the way he used punctuation to just really change the way a poem sounded. It was amazing. No semicolons. I don't think I've ever used a semicolon in a poem.
Oh, I love a semicolon.
In prose, they're fun.
I love a semicolon and I love an M dash. Oh, the M dash. The last question of this heated exchange of ideas. No. What is your publishing process?
Well, what happened for me is I just been writing poetry, and I wasn't sending anything out. And then I decided to put together a poetry manuscript because I had enough poems. But I didn't know what I was doing, so I just put them in chronological order, and I had them reviewed by a couple poets in the area, and they're like, this isn't ready. And one of them gave me good advice. She said, send some of your poems out, submit them to literary journals, because usually when you have a poetry chapbook or manuscript, at least 3 or 4 of the poems are published before the chapbook is. It's a good credential to get your book noticed, by publishers. So I started submitting through Submittable, which is an online form, to a number. And I've gotten 3 poems published with Sinister Wisdom. Apparently they like my stuff. And then, of course, one with Hiram Review. But then, after that, there's a local group called Pioneer Valley Writers Workshop, and I took their 10-month manuscript program. And it's like a mini MFA. You work with about 12 other people for the year. You meet on Zoom once a month with the instructor. You have buddy meetings with each other, with 3 people usually, over whatever poems you're working on. And you also get to submit 2 mini manuscripts to the group for revision and feedback. So through that process, I got a manuscript together. Still wasn't ready, but then the group that I was with, we were so enthusiastic, we extended ourselves and worked on our own through Zoom, and I finished my manuscript through that process with them reviewing it, and submitted it to a number of presses, and Finishing Line Press accepted it. So that's where I am right now. I'm just submitting some more poems, but I have an idea for a couple new chapbooks. I just need to write. I need to sit down and write.
That's very cool. I like the peer group approach. I've never really gotten too into that. I did try.
It's good for large projects if you want some help with a large project.
Yeah. Oh, I need help. Let me see. Well, the short coffee stories in this book, I actually started it as a Facebook page where I would just go out somewhere, have coffee, write it out, do a pretty quick edit, and then just post it as a social media thing, basically. Mm-hmm. And so that was great because I got instant feedback and had people sort of liking the material before I collected it all, gave it many more drafts and illustrated the book and everything. And then when I went to put it up for sale, there was kind of a built-in audience for it. So it worked out really well. It wasn't really the plan at the time, but it was a good approach. The sci-fi stuff, I actually went the more traditional route. I was sending stuff out. I think it was submittable. Also, I was sending stuff to different anthologies and magazines and stuff. And I think 2 or 3 of these stories out of 9 got published beforehand. But, in general, I'm a graphic designer, and I just really love books as objects. The name of my imprint is Object Publishing. So it's like every time I have any amount of writing, I'm just like, oh, well, I have to turn that into an object. I have to make that into a thing. So that's always the ultimate goal, is to have it be a thing that sits on a shelf and no one buys. I don't like ebooks. They're cruddy. That's what I think. They're convenient, though. I get it. But I think that's it for
our questions.
Our little back and forth.
Yeah.
All right. If anyone has questions, please let me know, and I'll bring you this awesome mic.
I have one question to get us started, which is, you tell me which is worse, unexpected rash or unexpected diarrhea?
Unexplained
Was it
diarrhea.
Unexplained, okay.
I think unexplained diarrhea is worse than a rash.
I'm going to agree. I really like that.
And I'm using the mic because there's a, so it's not, you both needed water because the air is dry, but so was the humor. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about both of you using humor, and how much and how little, and what's your feel for humor as writers.
All right. I think humor is a great way to get a point across and to really grab your reader. I really like that List poem. I really enjoy reading it and listening for reaction, because it's wonderful to make people laugh. I wanted to be a stand-up comic when I was younger, and I did do a little of it. It's pretty scary, but as long as you can handle a heckler or two, you do okay, But humor is just a wonderful vehicle. When I write, I have in my chapbook, I have some very serious poems about serious subjects, so I had to put some humor in there. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a marvelous way to get across to your reader and to connect with your readers. I don't know how you feel about that.
I mean, everything you said for sure. And also, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian eventually. For me, it's just the memory part of it. I have no problem with the performance and the delivery, but I don't think I could get up on stage and internalize 10 minutes of material, because I like words too much in sentences, and so I'd really want it to be very precise, and I don't think my brain's built for it.
You really have to be able to ad-lib.
Yeah, it's great when you see people at the top of their field where they're so comfortable that they can kind of float in and out of the pre-worked out parts, But yeah, comedy in my work is just there because that's how I am most of the time. And so it's just very true to myself and whatever you want to call my voice or whatever of writing, is to just put that in. And then that way, whenever I veer off into something more serious, it's a nice tonal shift, and then I can just kind of bring it back again whenever I want. I'm working on a big sprawling project right now about sort of mindfulness and creativity and all this stuff that can be really serious and dryish, and it's all stuff that people have talked about 1,000 times. It's not like I'm bringing up amazing new theories and concepts. So it's pretty much like all I can bring to the table is my own way of talking about this material, and then that'll hopefully connect with a different type of person than it would if it was written by someone else, I think I started rambling. I don't know.
No, it made perfect sense to me.
All right.
You both do quite a bit of different mediums like film and graphic design. How do you find time to write, or how do you time your writing? Do you build it in every day, or what's your writing schedule is like?
I have no structured time. I probably should, but I don't. It's really, picking out some hours around the week to chip away at a project, and then I feel stuck on a project, but I always have one or two more going that I can kind of bounce over to and bounce back. Right now I have the big sprawling mindfulness thing I just talked about, but then I also have an illustrated novel about headbangers that I'm working on, and then I have a sci-fi novel that I abandoned quite a while ago, but it's always kind of poking me in the back of my mind a little bit. So it allows me to just kind of jump to things when I need to. But yeah, I would probably benefit from 2 hours every morning, sit at a desk and write, but it doesn't happen.
I know for graphic arts and painting and drawing and those kinds of arts, they always say you have to make a lot of crappy art in order to get one good painting, one good drawing. I mean, do you do a lot of crappy writing?
For sure.
That you abandon? No, I mean that you just abandon, because that was no good, and then keep going, or do you keep? It sounds like there's a lot of reworking instead of abandoning.
I definitely do a lot of crappy writing, and I don't often fully trash something, and if I do, it's very early on. Otherwise, I'm very happy to throw an idea down and know it's not good yet, and then work it until it's acceptable. As long as I believe in the bones of it, the structure, the idea, or whatever, then I'm willing to have it take a long time if it needs to. That story that I read, this book came out 5 years ago, but that story's probably, Ted's Boot Shop, all those. I think that's probably like a 12 or 13-year-old story, maybe, so it's all about not giving up. As long as the idea still excites you, then you can just keep going back to it. How do you do with stuff like that?
Well, like I say, if I write something and I know it's not good, I let it compost. I'll put it aside. And then I might go to it 2 months later, I might find it, and maybe one line is good, or I change the format. I may use I've been writing pantoums lately, which repeat 2 lines of every stanza in the next stanza. So if I have a really good line, I make sure that it gets in the repetition. So I basically don't really abandon things. I let them sit, and sometimes I remember, really what I was trying to say, and so I'll revise. So a lot of my writing is revising. I put something down, and then, like this afternoon, I spent a couple hours revising 2 pantoums because I had a deadline of Monday to get them to my writing group. And I had written 4 or 5 versions of one of them, and the other one I wrote in a prose form first, submitted it, and it got rejected. And then I changed it to a pantoum, which I like the form right now. It seems to be working for me. I don't know if that answers the question.
That made me think. I'm in a band, and I write songs which aren't as cool as poems, but they're all right. But the funny thing that usually happens to me when I write songs, which is a lot more metaphorical than prose stuff I do, is I'll have one line, and that's the line that gets me excited about writing the song. I write the entire song around it, and then by the end, like 9 out of 10 times, that line doesn't fit anymore. And then I have to decide whether I'm leaving it in or whether I have to do the kill your darlings thing. But it sparks the idea, and I like it, and then it creates the whole song, and it gets left behind a little bit. And it's a very annoying thing when it happens. But yeah, it just made me think of that. But other than that, if there's no more questions.
All right, any more questions? All right. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your time and talent with us this evening. And we really appreciate it. And check out everything they've written.
Thanks very much.